So today we just to summarize what we went over is we talked a little bit this morning about kind of the basic GIS concepts, what GIS is, what it's not. And then we looked a little bit about how to work inside of ArcMap, a little bit with our catalog. We talked a bit about the data model, and of course we got some pretty good experience with that. Learned a little bit about the terminology of how GIS data is stored inside the geodatabase. We looked at our data model, of course. And then we learned how to do what we call heads-up digitizing, so that idea of taking an aerial photo and drawing things off of that on the screen. That's the term has been given to that as heads-up digitizing, as opposed to regular digitizing, which would involve like a big map on a table and you're actually tracing things. It's a whole other process. We tried to do mobile device data collection. We went through the process, the checkout process. That's correct, and the actual editing with the data in ArcPad, that's all correct. It's just we had a little software glitch there where it wouldn't check our data back in. Who knows what that's all about. And then we kind of rushed through creating a really quick and dirty collection map. But I hope that I've exposed you guys enough to the general overall process that you would feel at least somewhat comfortable about moving forward, and you can always go back and reference these videos and some other things that I'm going to talk about here. That's some other training resources for you. So the Alliance for Public Gardens GIS website has a few other things associated with it that can kind of help you hopefully get started. And now this is just a kind of a new thing, so it's really a work in progress, and we're slowly starting to develop content for it and make it happen. But as I mentioned, we have the Alliance website at apgg.org. And from there, you can link to this Google group that we've created, and I encourage you all to join it. So if you go to the website and under, I think it says join the APGG somewhere on that front page. If you go to that, it'll take you to our Google group, which you can apply for membership, and that's just basically, I just have to say yes, you can join. It's not a big deal, but that keeps the spammers out. But on there, it's basically, I think there's 70 or 80 different people on there now, and it's a great venue for asking questions about things. If you have a problem that you're trying to conquer in GIS, this is a way for you to ask other members of the Botanic Garden and Arboretum community about who are using GIS about these things and trying to create a support network there. We also have the news section of that site. I've been trying to put more stuff up there when we have announcements about workshops like this or something interesting that's being done with GIS at gardens. If I'm announcing, if I have a new version of the data model posted, I'll make an announcement on there. We have an RSS feed thing on there. If you guys are familiar with RSS, you can subscribe to it so it'll send you information automatically whenever we post something new. We recently started a LinkedIn group. If you guys are familiar with LinkedIn, it's kind of like the business Facebook, I guess. And on that group, you'll get a lot of the same information. You can ask questions there just like you can on the Google group of the members. And the news feed also goes through there. It also has the software news that comes from Esri also goes through that group. And I think Botanic Gardens, Conservation International, a couple other groups that are doing things that are of interest are all connected through that group. We recently started a YouTube channel that we're going to start putting training videos on. I'm going to kind of put an asterisk on that because we think that YouTube might not be high enough quality and doesn't allow for long enough file lengths. I think they top out at like 15 minutes. So we may not use the YouTube channel all that much, but we do have a couple things on there right now. But if we're not using the YouTube channel, all of the videos that we're creating we'll be putting on the Alliance for Public Gardens GIS website. So if you guys don't already have GIS going at your garden, or have been paying for Esri software, I want you to know a little bit more about the Esri grant program. So if you're an APGA institutional member, right? Institutional member, you can apply for this grant, which actually maybe, Angie, you want to just talk about this for a second? Because the process has changed a little bit.
There's actually two different ways. We, about a month ago, started a new grant program that's for any nonprofit, and it's actually a little bit simpler than this process. So it's just esri.com/nonprofit, and there's a form on the web that you fill out to basically verify your status as a tax-exempt organization, and then somebody from Esri will contact you, and you can finish the order. That is really only for the ArcInfo, the software that we've been working with today, the ArcGIS desktop. And there's also an option to get the ArcGIS server through that. So for those of you just starting out, I'd recommend that route. And then there's, through the Esri Conservation Program, there's a more flexible but more convoluted way to request software. So through the Conservation Program, you can request more types of software, so more than just the ArcInfo or the ArcGIS server. But there's an email application form. So basically you send a blank email to an address and you get an email back.
That address right there.
Yeah, that address down there. And the form looks worse than it really is. I mean, it's like 10 pages long, but I think the first 9 pages are instructions. So it's not as bad as it looks, but it does, I think, look a little intimidating. But essentially you just are filling out your contact information, and they're like 2 questions. Describe what you want to do with GIS, and then there's like a financial justification. And you don't need to go into any depth in the financial justification. It's mostly just, describe what you want to do. And in part, we're just trying to make sure that people are requesting the right software for what it is they're trying to do. Because again, you can request any Esri product, and so if you request ArcGIS server, but what I think you really need is ArcPad, because you're talking about doing data collection, and that's kind of how we catch that through that email form. You think of anything to add?
Well, I think that there's a couple other things that I have on here is that, through the grant program, you can also get the online training courses. You can enroll in those. And then I think on a standby basis, you can try to enroll in instructor-led courses. So if there's seats available in an instructor-led course, you can jump in and fill one of those seats. But the online training courses are great, and I highly recommend trying to take as many of those as you can fit in, because you're going to get a lot of great information about that. Almost all the things we did today, with the exception of working with things that were really data model specific, can all be learned through these online courses.
Yeah, and there also are the software workbooks I described earlier. You can request those through the grant as well. So if you'd like to learn from a book rather than through an online class, that's another way to get some training.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, the first option that you mentioned, the nonprofit, that gives them free software for how long?
A year, so you can reapply each year.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now I want to talk about this other little program that we've been working on at UC Davis, and I found this picture I thought was pretty awesome. So you guys are the kid on the bike getting trained at the training wheels, and that's supposed to be me or Angie. I think it's Angie actually. It looks like a little bit helping you guys along. Sorry. So basically, we have a grant at the UC Davis Arboretum to develop a bunch of training resources for doing GIS at public gardens. So this workshop is part of that grant that we got. So it's helping put together this stuff. If I start at the bottom of the list here, the training workshop is today. And we've already created or filmed all like a 7-part video series, about half-hour long videos that walk through some of the steps we did today in more detail, and walk through actually collecting data out in the field with a laser rangefinder and a number of other subjects that actually have the mobile device and all that stuff involved in it. And those videos are just in the process of being edited, and we'll be posting those on the APGG website relatively soon. We're working on a couple other things, working from the bottom to the top here, this idea of a professional services program where we're going to try to hopefully connect GIS professionals that are in your area with gardens. So especially in this kind of economic climate, there seems to be a lot of people that are looking to do more volunteer work. GIS professionals are no different, and from the people that we've talked to, there's a lot of people that are interested in helping out at gardens. So if we can hook you up with someone who really knows what they're doing, and they'll come out and do that for free, we think that can be a really valuable program. Mia is working on kind of a model volunteer program, or kind of putting together procedures and training materials for getting a volunteer program that can help you work on your GIS. That will hopefully really, reduce the costs involved of creating one. There's lots of people out there that want to learn how to do GIS, or there's even a lot of people who are retired professionals who have done it before and have considerable experience doing it and want to volunteer at the garden. So we're putting together some stuff to help out with that process. We're working on kind of creating this guide to GIS book that will walk through the whole process in a paper-based documentation kind of style book that will hopefully be really useful for people who prefer to learn in the kind of paper or book in hand kind of method. And then we're also putting together what we're calling making the case for GIS materials that is basically stuff like a presentation and brochures and things like that have good talking points for being able to sell the value of GIS to directors and people who have hold the purse strings at your organization. So I know a lot of curators and collection managers really want to do GIS but have a hard time being able to convince their management that it's the way to go. So we're going to try to make some materials to help with that. As I mentioned, this social networking site, we have the LinkedIn site. I think we're looking into maybe another way of doing that. But basically, in the Google group is one too. But we really want to be able to connect all the people that are doing GIS at gardens so that people can kind of have a support network out there. And of course, we're going to work more on the Alliance for Public Gardens GIS website. I think that's about it. Are there any more questions? iPad. Yeah, so there's ArcGIS for iOS that works on iPad, but I'm pretty sure that it runs off of server, doesn't it? So it's not really the most viable solution for people. You're thinking for like data collection? Yeah, I don't think that. Yeah, you have to have the ArcGIS server software running at your organization to be able to collect data and work with that. Yeah, it's possible. I think the server thing is going to get a little bit easier as time goes along. Right now, it's a little too complex for most people. I don't recommend it, but we could talk a little bit more about it. Yeah. For the hardware specifically, well, it depends on what you're going for. There's a big trade-off between money and accuracy, basically. So what we did at the UC Davis Arboretum was what they call sub-foot GPS. So that gets you about 8 inches or so of accuracy. If your collections are not that densely planted, then that is a good solution. But if you're trying to map all your perennials that are pretty densely planted, it doesn't work that great. So there's a trade-off there. I know the Arnold Arboretum is using what they call decimeter accuracy GPS, but that's a lot more expensive, but it has far better results. A lot of gardens, if you want to do it right the first time and really do a good job, there's the total station, or more of a surveying approach, which involves driving actual hard monuments into the ground and then surveying the locations of things. That requires a lot more time, but the results you're going to get out of that are a lot better. And then, some gardens like Missouri Botanic Garden have gone with what they call the heads-up digitizing, where they're just basically walking around with a tablet and plopping points on the map, and that works for them. So it really comes down to how accurate you want to go. And I could recommend some hardware stuff off a side conversation if you'd like. Anybody else?
Yes, well, Brian and I will both be working together to make these video segments available both on the APGG website and the Center for Public.
Yeah. What I would recommend to stay on board with this is if you go to the Alliance for Public Gardens GIS website. You can subscribe to the RSS news feed, and then it'll deliver it to your email box when we announce that. Any other questions?